Hello, art lovers. My name is Valerie Butters, and this is The Show Must Go On. Yeah, we're inside my studio. It is, I haven't had a chance to clean up. This is all unscripted. I don't know what I'm going to say. I don't even know what I'm going to paint. Well, I kind of have a general idea, but the idea here is that I'm just going to check in with you guys, or you guys are going to check in with me about once a week and see what I'm up to and see how sane I am, I guess, or, you know, it's week 8 now, I think, that quarantine, and I finally had a meltdown. I finally broke down on Friday night, and yeah, it was, I'm all of a sudden now a grade 1 French teacher and a house cleaner. How many times a day, for the love of God, do I have to do the dishes? It's just insane. Yeah, trying to work. My husband's working all the time because he's trying to save his company, and starting to get cabin fever. Feel like I need to work, but at the same time I really can't complain. I have a nice big house with a nice lot with a garden and all that. So, you know, it took me 7.5 weeks to have a meltdown, so I'm doing pretty good. I'm over it. I've moved on. I'm not living in the past. This is pandemic times. Must look forward. So here we are in my studio with me rambling on to you. Just gonna go through a few house rules. Or housekeeping. I don't really know what the lingo is for like podcasts and stuff, so I'm just gonna wing it. I am a one-woman show. Even though this is, ta-da, the show must go on, the show is just me. And my camera, iPhone, on a tripod, looking at me, pointing at me. So, fortunately, I really have no shame, so I'm keen, I'm up for it. I am more than happy to share my process with you. I think it's important to see, you know, a lot of people have a lot of time on their hands and maybe have wondered what it would be to be like a crazy artist. Well, I'm here to offer you a window into this world. So, we are sort of in between seasons. By seasons, not really seasons, more like things that are blooming. So I was hoping to be able to do a cherry blossom for you. And I did do one last week, but I'll be honest with you, my I have a 50% average success rate with filming right now. I've run into a lot of issues, like having my camera sideways and losing about an hour of film. So yeah, let's hope that let's hope I don't screw this one up and this actually works, and then let's hope that, you know, I don't make a crap abstraction, because that's quite possible too. So I tend to verge on abstraction. However, for the sake of these demos, I might not be, but I can't promise anything one way or the other, because I just kind of fly by the seat of my pants. So I did go in my garden and I have some stuff growing, blooming. So here we've got a lovely little bouquet with some cherry blossoms that are pretty much dead. Well, they've moved on from the blossom period and going into, you know, its next phase of cherry growth. Some lilacs that are, some of them are kind of in shock. Some of them are doing better than others. And I've got some tulips from my garden that they were open about half an hour ago, but I think it's a little chilly in here and not as bright as it is in the garden underneath under the sun. That sun's our planet. Yeah, so, but that's okay, because what I'm going to do, and this is a lovely vase that used to belong to my great uncle Jack, who was also an artist in Vancouver. And he's painted this vase many times, and I have it now, and he stands an inspiration, because at one point he had a stroke and he had to relearn how to paint again. So I'm going to do this, and what I did is that I just grabbed an older painting that I wasn't really feeling the love. Put a light coat of gesso over top, just kind of really loose. And I think that, I don't know if you can see, but there's sort of like these undercolors popping up from the previous painting, and it's sort of this minty kind of green. I feel like it's sort of antique looking, so and I kind of like how those minty colors kind of look next to reds and oranges. So when I start doing these processes, when I start composing or trying to think about what this painting is going to be about, I just try to think of like 2 or 3 things and stick to those things. Maybe I'll write those ideas on the wall, because I did have I do have an idea for a series that I want to work on, where how this pandemic is going to affect my work, and how my subject can relate to that. So, oh yeah, house roll. So me looking here, it looks like I'm just staring into space. It's like fluff and bubbles. I'm actually looking at my art through my camera. It's like using a mirror. I often, most always, look at my work through my camera or through a mirror, because it really forces you to use another side of your brain. For some reason, I use it as a tool, where if you look at it this way, you see it differently than when you look this way. So I do a lot of staring into space. It's not space, I'm actually looking behind me. Probably why I have a third eye. We're just going to talk about some elementary stuff here. I'm going to find some shapes right away. I don't get too attached to them if I don't like them. They're gone. They don't necessarily make the cut. Okay, so I'm going to start a little bit smaller so I can keep in mind that I'm going to attempt to have this be maybe not as grandiose as I normally do. I'm gonna get some of this new orange that I like, this new burnt orange. It sort of warms everything up nicely. So when I'm looking at my subject, trying really hard not to have a name for these things. So I like to use the analogy that I am an alien who has just landed on planet Earth and came across this object, and I want to tell my alien friends about it, but I guess these aliens haven't invented a camera yet, so he needs to paint it to show his buds back at the spaceship or a different planet. So I don't know what this is, but I'm trying to render it how I feel. So I'm not thinking vase, I'm thinking square, shiny, solid thing. So I'm going to paint it like it's solid. Whereas something else, maybe I'm not going to paint it like it's so solid. I'm not going to get too attached to where it is. I like to push stuff around and spread it. You never know when that will come in useful later. Nothing is precious. We are looking, we're not waiting for accidents to happen, because good things come out of accidents. In many ways, we're actually forcing accidents to happen. And don't always have to work on either positive or negative space. You can work on both at the same time, and I do like to encourage that. I'm so fortunate. I have people that bring me things. It's one of the nice things about living in a small town. I live in Pemberton. And small potatoes. Sweeta, thank you for delivering my white paint, because I almost had a crisis. I ran out of white paint. I'm liking that minty color. So sometimes there's certain blues that you can mix with certain greens, and you'll kind of get that antique feel. I'm not committed to it. I'm just sort of testing it out and seeing how it feels. Now I like to use my paddle, which is a really cool tool actually that one of my students let me use one time, and she actually gave it to me. So we're just looking for shapes. Just testing stuff out. I'm not going to get stuck in one area. I'm going to end up with all these palettes going at once. That's fine. I know that we've got some nice lavender up there. And lavender is a bit of a larger shape. Yes, there are many little purple flowers in a cluster of lavender. For the love of whoever you pray to, we don't need to paint 5,000 little petals. Let's just general. It's too soon to put the little details up. Oh, look, it's like I thought I had paint in here and I didn't. See? Not the brightest star in the sky. Maybe that makes it a COVID joke. Yeah, spend half my time looking for stuff. That's okay. My place should be way cleaner than it is, but I just don't have the time right now. Okay, so once you make a decision, commit to it and exaggerate it. It's just paint. We're not saving lives here. Just see what it feels like. It's a pretty color. Now, just because I have lavender there, or that alien, it's gonna say like really lovely purple, delicate thing. I can, with my mind, pretend like there's more somewhere else. This is a reference. I think one of the biggest problems that some people make is that they think that they need to paint exactly what's in front of them. And what happens when you do that is that you're not paying attention to what's happening on the canvas. And there's actually some like really good stuff going on. That's why I suggest doing time lapses while you work. You'd be surprised at what you missed. It's depressing too, but you know, it's educational. Let me just make sure I'm recording. Okay, we're good. And oh, more kissing the edges. I was gonna try to contain it. I can't help myself. I can always try to bring it together later. Just general information. I don't want to get stuck anywhere too, so maybe I'll go back over here and give it a little bit more that solid shiny thing. And maybe I'll mix some of that with this. Maybe purple, this one on here. I use just meat trays and stuff from the from my groceries, vegetable trays, meat trays. They're great. Oh man, I put way too much orange. Oh well, it's a nice color I could use for something else. Maybe down here or up there. Actually, you know what? It could probably work for where these cherry blossoms are. Sort of a nice putty. It is a nice putty. I don't mind it. Maybe I'll cut in around the, I'll cut in around these shapes here. Uh-oh. This happens a lot too. day. So it's very monochromatic right now, and there's not a lot of values. So like if you were to look at this in black and white, there are some darks, but everything's kind of middle to light. So I'm gonna have to find some more values, but I do think that that'll happen once I start going in with some of those red and orange shapes and the green ones. So I'm just going to trust that decision that I foresee happening in the future. I hope everybody's doing okay. It's kind of a crazy new reality. I feel more relaxed than I did a few weeks ago, though. 8 weeks ago was pretty stressful. Not to say it's not stressful now, it's just different. Okay, I'm going to cut in around this a little bit too. Right. Finding those negative spaces between. This happens all the time. I'm like, why does this color look so familiar? Because I tried to give myself a manicure, a really, really bad one. Don't. It's just. Why can't I just let my nails be free? No. Nope, apparently not. I'm gonna go try to find some of those reds straight away. Just so I know they're there, because that color is going to influence other decisions, so I may as well lay it down right away. And it's a deep red. These tulips are actually from the Canadian Legion, from the Legion in Pemberton. And they also were called the Canadian Liberation Tulips. They were promoted last Remembrance Day, and I'd forgotten that I'd bought a lot of them, and I'd forgotten that I planted them. So when I was out in the garden the last few weeks, I'm like, what is all this? What is this? Looks like there's hundreds of tulips popping up. And I'm like, oh yeah, there is hundreds of tulips popping up. So yeah, I went a little crazy. I'm a big Remembrance Day person, having been in the military, having had lots of family in the military. Even Uncle Jack was in the military, or great Uncle Jack. My dad, me. So I probably had a little beer at the Legion, got all emotional, and bought a few hundred Liberation tulips. That's okay. We'll do what we can. They're getting too fussy. I want to repeat these shapes. Now there's only 3 in here. It doesn't mean that I only have to do 3. But there's something in here. So I'm just going to put it with no shape or anything. Just, yeah, see, it's, the posture's wrong. So, and maybe it should be higher. It should be higher. I need a tiny brush to get it out of this tiny jar. Chroma, if you were listening, it would be great if you could have 1 liter jars. Because this just kills me. A little higher. Let's see how that feels. Yeah. And do I want them all kind of, well, that one's going that way, and maybe this one goes this way, but it's over top, so maybe this one's a little higher up. But from this angle here, Decisions. I'll just put some marks down and see how it feels. Maybe another one up here. Okay. I feel like I'm getting a little too fussy here. There's a cluster of these. So instead of painting them individually, I'm just going to find that mass. Some of them poke out. Yeah, and then some poking out here. So they're kind of all going that way. Got some of these going this way, and then the lavender going this way. We're going to introduce the aliens, like, attached to these colorful bursts. There are these green things that seem to open up to the sky. Some of them, and some of them hang down. Jasper, no! What, baby? Just gonna feel it out. Put some here. Just gonna go for the shape that the cluster is making, not individual. You'd be surprised as to how little information the human eye really needs to understand what they're looking at. And I also feel like I just realized that I didn't. I'm so sorry. I didn't double check to see if I'd cleaned my. Okay. I think it's okay. Where was I? What was I talking about? I would rather see imperfections and interesting marks rather than something perfect and boring. I kind of like this color that's going on, so I'm just going to push it around. Wow, was not expecting that. Okay, what happened there? Paintings tend to be predominantly cool or predominantly warm. I don't think you really need to figure that out right away, but sometimes if you have a problem and you can't figure out what you're not liking, it could just be a temperature problem. See, putting paint on and taking paint off. Putting paint on, taking paint off. Don't be naughty. Oh. Yeah. I'm a bit of a walking disaster, but it works for me. I like that warmth. I don't know if you noticed that it's just slight temperature change there. Might pick up on some of this green. I don't really mind because I can go back in there and get the green again. when you move stuff around, you don't really know what's going to happen. That's the whole point. Interesting things can happen. We like interesting. Interesting is exciting. Yeah, it's interesting-ish. Okay, stand back, take a look at it. I think I'd like to bring in some deeper lilacs. This side of the lilacs, excuse me, are more warm and more saturated and of a higher value, a deeper value. This one's very, very like traditional lavender and light and has more of a mass. So I'm just going to use these powers of observation and try to translate the difference between one cluster and the other cluster. This is the Islands variation. And I'm going to warm it up with some... No, not that. With some cadmium, maybe? Does that feel right? That does not feel right. I think this feels... Well, okay, maybe a cadmium dark red. No, alizarin. Don't have to know the names of the colors, just see how they behave beside each other. Ooh, this is pretty. And it doesn't necessarily have to go on the... I was mixing this color to go for the, the lilac. But it's picking up on some of the stuff that I need for these tulips. I'm not a good alien. Oh my goodness. Woo-hoo. Big baby. Cadmium deep. My plans got kind of derailed here. Oh, I'm so sorry for all you hear is the howling of my dog. Dodo. Okay, back to my original plan. Violets. Punching that up a little bit, and then while we're over here, there are parts of this one that also share some of these qualities, but slightly different. So I'm going to use some of that putty color that already is on my palette and just vary it. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 palettes on the go right now. Yeah, I'm seeing that color. I'm glad that it just appeared. Where else does it live? I think it lives back there. I will vary it a little bit again. And some of it's over here, but even a little bit more yellow. So I'm going to introduce a new color now, just a tad little bit of yellow. And I see that behind it. It's actually the old beat up cherry blossoms. So it is so peripheral and so not important for the painting, aside from the fact that it just could be an area of interest that is completely ambiguous. And it's also kind of over here, so I may as well just do a few marks. Ugh, I don't know what that was, but I like it. Who knows what that's gonna be. Gonna dive back into some green. And it looks like all my green has disappeared. So I will add some green to my purple palette and some Payne's Gray, so that burnt orange, some more green, some white, and then some green gold. So I've got variations of green on my palette. Now what happens is that if I have too much paint on my palettes and I don't want to waste it, there are ways to deal with that. You can cover it with saran wrap. You could, what I do is that I'll spray my palettes with some water and I'll put another tray sort of on top of it. And then it's pretty much still okay the next day. But that doesn't really work for me these days because I don't really get in here every day. Because I'm a grade 1 French teacher, house cleaner, cook. Yeah. It's just the way the life is right now. I'm kind of feeling like I might abstract this a bit now. Maybe we'll go all Joan Mitchell on this. Let's see what we can do. You know what? I just might do that. Let's just get some feeling going instead of getting fussy. Take it apart. That's what I love to do. I love to take paintings apart. And the nice thing about abstraction is that you really get lost in beautiful variations of colors and stuff. So let's take a risk, because if you can't take a risk during a pandemic, then when exactly can you? Are you excited? I'm getting excited. And honor the movement of what you see. Okay, I'm still taking from life, but now I've just taken the pressure off myself. Who doesn't love that? Especially these days. I mean, really, survival these days is really about lowering your expectations. Am I right? See, already in the brain, there's some interesting things going on. But the bottom is boring, and I'm going to dive into some of that lavender again. The lighter lavender. More light. See, my palettes, I've always got like little pockets of variation. Okay, let's get some big marks going here. Oh yeah. Look at that. Freedom. Okay. Come on over here. That feels good. Okay, over here, I'm going to get some of that warmer, same idea, but looser. Maybe it's time for the old bag. Let's turn this into a party that I want to go to. Okay, I think that I'm going to take the old bag and find a little bit of volume down at the bottom now, because now this seems like just a tiny weird space. That really needs some. You start treating one part of the painting differently, and then the other part of the painting just looks like it's part of a different painting, and you've got two different paintings in one painting, and nobody wants that. I'm going to cut into that background again. Can be all free in some areas and clean up other areas. Am I scaring you? Because I know I scare people. I'm going to cut around shapes. I'm going to make shape. Let's make an interesting shape. I'm going to vary that again, but I think I'm going to introduce more of a cobalt with the green, orange, more cobalt, cobalt blue. So now I've got this darker. I'm going to test it out and see what it's like on this side. Okay, referring, so I'm not just like shooting from the hip here. I'm gonna steal shapes from my subject. But the world doesn't need to know that. Well, like, the viewer doesn't need to know that that mark was inspired by something in here. And same thing here. That's a nice fluid marks going on now. It's giving it that more of a moody richness to it. I'm just dragging that across, and that's lovely. It's still wet, so I can push that around. Yeah, I've got some of that warmth on my brush. Let's see what that looks like down there. So, what I don't like is how it's all kind of the same. What I do see in here is that there's more volume on this side than this side. So, I am going to cut back in here and find that space. Build it up here. There's some volume there, and then this gets cut this way. Yeah, so that is more interesting. And I can cut into that background again to take advantage of that new breathing space that I think I created. Yeah, you see that? That's more of a, it's more of a shape. And even here, this goes quite high up that way. Let's just find those lines. And then it's kind of cleaner here. Okay, I'm gonna lighten up that area a little bit too. This is all to the same tone at the bottom. And the shape. There's a dangling shape. There's a space here. A lot of space there. I need more white paint. I should add that I have a line of face masks. Yeah, cool. There's 3 different kinds. Made in Canada, Canadian company, Montreal company, I should rather. They're really nice. 3 totally different ones that accommodate all of our pandemic moods or personalities. There's a dark one, which is really dramatic and would be good for anybody, but maybe men, or not to say that they're gender specific. I find that my work is actually pretty gender neutral, even though it's a floral. Most men don't really gravitate to florals, they kind of gravitate to landscapes, but I think because I paint so physically and so different that that every time a woman is like, oh, you need to see this painting, I'm like, floral, I don't want a floral, and then they see the floral and I'm like, yeah, I don't mind the floral actually. So for some reason the way that I paint responds pretty well to both men and women, which is nice. I remember in art school one time, somebody, was it art school? Somewhere along in my journey, somebody said I painted like a man. And what does that even mean? But whatever, I guess that's just part of the journey. Find that shape again. That's a little bigger than I initially thought. Find some of that foliage as I've moved things over a little bit. You do one thing and it affects everything. Now that affects the lavender. So a little bit of the lavender. This is the exciting part. That's when my brain's like, oh my god, I need to do this, and oh no, I need to do this. Suggestion of petals. I'm not putting in thousands. I'm just giving the idea that there's something going on there that's tiny. Maybe just there. I want to bring this up a little higher. And this is quite light compared to the rest of them. Line. Time for some line. Give it some structure. Line is a great element. I don't use it primarily. A lot of artists use a lot of line. But there is definitely line, especially in that part over there. Try to find some of those tulip shapes again, especially the orange and purple. There's something wrong over here. Sometimes I just need to do stuff and I don't know why. Yeah, we've got some good shapes going there. Need some more weight, dark-ish gray down there. Probably in the brownish purple department. Same thing over here, a bit of variation of that. Maybe a little bit lighter. Spots of sunlight. Remember, alien. There's this like shiny solid thing. Shiny. It's not shining. Why is it shining? It's a purple too. goodness. I like the line going up here, so we got a few more. It's looking interesting. I can add a little sparkle here. Well, I'm glad that you guys were able to spend some time with me today. It's nice to share my process with you. I realize I have a bit of a different process than a lot of other artists. I was trained in Montreal and come from an expressionistic background, inspired by the Canadian automatistes and some other really awesome, fearless people. There's no right or wrong way of painting. This is just how I do it. Might be like 90% done, I'm not really sure. I'm gonna let it be for now probably, and it's pretty wet too, so I'm gonna have to let it dry. So thank you for joining me today. And my dog crying like a big baby. Oh, how many of us have felt that way over the last couple of months? So can't really blame her. Anyhow, have a great day. Hang in there. Be kind, be calm. We love Bonnie Henry. And enjoy the good weather and happy gardening and all that jazz. So see you later, and thanks for joining me at The Show Must Go On. Bye.